When you think of the ultimate British supercar, it's pretty hard to beat the entire package of a McLaren. This company has been specializing in building some of the best supercars around the world for decades. And a couple of years ago, we saw McLaren replace the beloved entry-level 570S with the brand new McLaren Artura. The Artura was also a big deal because what they essentially did is they brought down some of the electrified technology from the P1 into a slightly smaller and slightly more affordable package. And as you can see this week, we are back out just north of Portland, Oregon with the rest of the members of the Automotive Video Association because we managed to get our hands on this vehicle. This is the 2025 Artura Spider. It's essentially a topless version of their entry-level supercar, and just like the coupe model, we have a plug-in hybrid powertrain that combines a twin-turbo V6 with a powerful electric motor to give you up to 690 horsepower. So the big question I want to answer for those of you who are looking for the ultimate everyday supercar that actually gives you some electric-only range capability, has McLaren created the ultimate vehicle for you? Stay tuned to find out. So as the entry-level supercar in the McLaren lineup, this vehicle has a very important role in attracting a younger buyer into McLaren showrooms because, as you guys know, the company offers so many different sports cars, supercars to choose from, which can basically be priced at the base end like this, all the way up to something that's well over $1 million+. So talking about the exterior styling of the new Artura, first of all, the name comes from the combination of art and futuristic or future. And I have to say, the design of this thing is instantly recognizable as a McLaren. You can see the front fascia basically almost has an evolution of the last 570S that I tested, but it also kind of has some hints of vehicles like the 720S, which again is technically a price class above. You can see all Arturas come standard with these full LED headlights, which have an LED daytime running light, multiple projector style LEDs. You have an LED turn signal down here along with the daytime running light. And as you expect, there's a lot of functional air intake openings here. You can see there's a lot of heat exchangers here, functional air intake openings there. This particular one that I'm showing you has the black exterior package option for an extra $3,200. It adds a lot of the gloss black accents that you're seeing. And then this color is called Volcano Blue. It really doesn't make sense to me for the name, but it's an extra $9,500 extra for the color. The one thing I definitely wasn't really the biggest fan of, and my editor Rob also pointed out, is the front overhang of this vehicle is kind of a little bit too much for me. But let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the design. It certainly looks very distinctive. It gets a lot of attention. You can see there's a integrated front camera there with integrated parking sensors. The vehicle itself does have an active front suspension where you can raise and lower the front end to keep you from scraping it, which is going to be necessary because when a vehicle is this low, which literally it makes me feel old because it hurts my knees to kind of crouch down to show you guys the front fascia, it's definitely going to remind you that you're driving around in a toy, essentially. Now, underneath the hood, there is a frunk. Now, to access the frunk, there's basically the fob that you can just double tap that button, and that'll essentially open up the hood for you. Now, as you can see, this is the only additional storage space outside of the vehicle besides the interior. And as you can see here, we have all of our camera gear equipment. It's basically 2 backpacks and a couple of other items. But McLaren says you have around 6 cubic feet of storage space, which 6 cubic feet is actually a pretty decent amount. This frunk, again, is similar to the size of the frunk that you'll find in like a Porsche 911. You can see there's a really good amount of features in here. There's nice carpeting material. It is completely sealed off. You have some LED lighting in here. You also have, looks like a 12-volt power outlet. And overall, you can see, as this being the only storage area, you should be able to carry a couple of 21-inch maybe roller bags back here or up here, which is going to be, again, important if you guys want to use this for like a longer weekend trip. But closing the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the rest of the profile. Now, like I said earlier, this vehicle is their entry-level model, and it's built on their new architecture called MCLA, which stands for McLaren Carbon Lightweight Architecture. And McLaren as a company has always stressed extremely lightweight vehicles. And even though this car is a plug-in hybrid, you'll soon find out, I'll talk about that underneath the rear hatch area in the powertrain. This is still a good 500 pounds lighter than a lot of its main rivals. In terms of the dimensions, the Artura is pretty similar to the 570S that it replaces. It's a little over 178.7 inches long with a 103.9 inch long wheelbase. The wheelbase is actually a little bit shorter than the 570S, but it's a little bit longer by about a ½ inch. It's also roughly around the same width and the same height. And overall, I think the proportions of this vehicle pretty much match that of something like a Porsche 911, a Chevrolet Corvette. You can see for an extra $5,000, my particular test car has these 20-inch, or I'm sorry, it's a 19-inch forged lightweight wheel with like a 10-spoke design with like a two-tone finish with the machine and the kind of gray, matte gray finish with the inner spokes. You can see you have standard carbon ceramic brakes with red painted calipers. The red painted calipers, I believe, are extra. The tires are Pirelli P0 Corsas. They're a summer performance tire. They're an extra $1,800. The front is a 235 by 35 ZR19. The rear is a fatter 295 35 ZR20. So you have a 19-inch wheel in the front, a 20-inch wheel at the back. All independent suspension with adaptive dampers, as you guys expect. And this vehicle, as you can see, is incredibly low, but it also just, really hugs the road. That's what gives it that classic supercar look. Now you can see there's some carbon fiber here for these functional heat extractor vents. There's some carbon fiber here for the mirror caps. And then the roof panel, this is a fully powered top, which I'll show you guys how the top goes up and down in just a moment. But you also notice there's a really cool electrochromatic glass piece here on the roof that doesn't actually open, but you can push a button to basically electrically frost or unfrost the window. So it kind of gives you, again, that glass roof appearance if you guys don't want to open up the top. The top goes up and down in about 11 seconds. You also have this very large vent right here, which allows, again, functional air to come in and cool the engine, obviously, or give the engine air, because that V6 is going to be mounted under here. I really find this piece here fascinating. It's almost like a plexiglass piece, although you can't really see through this because, as you can see right here, it's just like a gloss black painted piece, but I suspect it has to do perhaps with the visibility. It certainly is a really interesting styling statement. Follow me over to the rear. You can see more functional heat extractor vents, and then you can see back here the look is very, very classic McLaren. You have these really slim slits basically for the full LED taillights. It's a combination style where you have a full LED turn signal as well. You can see there's a small little badge here that says McLaren Artura for the name of the vehicle, in case you guys forget what it is. You can see the exhaust system is mounted high up, which I guess if you're standing back there, you better stand clear, because this engine, it's a brand new engine and it sounds phenomenal. So let's go ahead and fire it up. You guys can hear how it sounds real quick. Now, as expected, the sound that this thing makes is absolutely incredible, but you're also probably wondering what the heck is making that noise, because typically McLarens have boosted 8-cylinder engines, but this car, however, introduces a brand new bespoke engine. It's actually a twin turbocharged V6, and to show you guys the engine, I wish I could actually show you more of it, but there's basically a little button you can push here, and that opens up the rear tonneau cover, this panel, and as you can see, it exposes the rear, or the carbon fiber tub of this vehicle, and that really does basically show off the exotic feel. Now, you could put stuff back here if you wanted to, but I personally wouldn't, because it'll just kind of roll around in there. But while we're underneath here, let's go ahead and talk about that bespoke engine. It's a brand new 120-degree bank angle, so it's almost like a flat engine, almost like a flat engine. It's a 3-liter twin turbocharged direct injection double overhead cam V6, which is augmented by an axial flux electric motor that's kind of integrated into the bell housing of the 8-speed dual clutch transmission. Again, all of this is bespoke and developed exclusively for this McLaren Artura. The gas engine on its own delivers 596 horsepower and around 430-ish foot-pounds of torque. Now, of course, it's all combined with an electric motor that delivers an additional 94 horsepower and 166 pound-feet of torque, for a grand total of 690 horsepower and around 580-ish pound-feet of torque. So those numbers are very impressive. In fact, McLaren actually gave this car an extra 15 horsepower compared to the 2024 model. And the other cool thing is, if you guys have a 2023 or 2024 model, McLaren will actually give you a software update which will increase the power automatically, and that's free of charge. So that was something that I wasn't really expected. The electric motor draws its power from a 7.4 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack that lives underneath this rear area here. That's all for the weight distribution. And McLaren says when you want to plug this thing in or drive it on electric-only power, it'll do up to 11 miles of electric-only range. At least that's what the EPA says, I'm sorry. McLaren thinks that you'll be able to do around 20 in around town driving. So I'll have to eventually hopefully get one of these for a week back home to test that out. On this little program here, I'm not going to be able to test it out because I only have a limited amount of time with this vehicle. This vehicle only is rear-wheel drive. I was actually surprised to see it was rear-wheel drive. I was kind of thinking McLaren would have made this all-wheel drive, but again, that adds more weight and adds more complexity. The performance figures for this car are impressive. 0 to 60 should happen in around 3 seconds with a top speed of around 205 miles an hour. Even on the convertible version, this will do over 200 miles an hour. And as you guys probably are wondering, how much does this thing weigh? Well, that's the thing, is this car is built from a carbon fiber lightweight tub, and the curb weight of this car, even with all the electric motor componentry, which adds around 200 pounds, this thing weighs in at just under 3,500 pounds. So compared to something like the Corvette E-Ray, which weighs nearly 4,000 pounds, this is around 500 pounds lighter versus most of its competitors. And I have to say, McLaren did an amazing job with keeping the weight in check, but also giving you still up to 700 horsepower. So once you're done drooling over the exterior of the new 2025 Artura Spider, let's go ahead and talk about the interior. Now, as you can see, the doors are classic McLaren. These are the dihedral doors, and they open up to really just create a statement. And once you get into this interior, you can see this car reveals that I'm getting old because getting in and out of it's kind of a pain in the ass. But once you're inside, it's a really comfortable seat that really holds you in place quite nicely. Now, I want to basically first close this door, which actually has a really nice solid sounding thunk, and let's go ahead and put the roof panel down. Before we do that, I want you to notice this transparent glass piece. Now, as you can see, there's a button right here, then if I push that, it actually will automatically unfrost or untint that roof panel to basically give you almost like a clear see-through area, and I can just push it again. That'll tint it, which is, I think, a really nice touch. That's an extra $9,500, but it's a cool party trick to kind of show off to whoever you have in this vehicle, which is, it's kind of a cool feature. Now, to put the roof down, the button to do that is right here. You basically have to push that. Push that, and you can see push and hold it. I actually had to confirm it that there was nothing in the actual tonneau cover area. You can see the roof goes down in just 10 seconds. So it is definitely one of the quickest roof panels out there. I think you can also operate it up to speeds of 30 miles an hour. So that's a really nice trick. I love how fast the roof is, and it just kind of creates this open air experience, but it also doesn't feel completely open because, again, like with the Targa style roof back here, it still makes you feel like you're in a nice enclosed space. Now, looking at the rest of this interior, first of all, this interior color is not something I would choose, but it certainly is nice looking. You have this beautiful soft and supple suede Alcantara. There's this beautiful black leather with the stitching, the cross stitching. There's a slight little McLaren logo here in the upper seat. And you can see these seats themselves are also power. So the driver's side gives you kind of like, I believe, a 10-way power adjustment. Same thing with the driver's side. I'm sorry, this is the passenger side, not the driver's side. You can see the rest of this interior. The steering wheel has a really nice look to it with the flat bottom design, the really nice smooth leather, the metal accents, or the metal, I'm sorry, paddle shifters, which are connected to the wheel. The steering wheel itself lacks any kind of buttons for audio or cruise control stuff. You're going to find the cruise control as a stock right here, and you can also find a stock right here to control the fully digital 12.3-inch cluster here. And then over here, you can see in the center, this is a bespoke McLaren branded infotainment system that measures 8 inches. As you can see, it's in a portrait style, and it also has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but it is via a wired connection. So I was surprised to see it's not wireless, but you can see when the CarPlay is pulled up, my phone's connected in here via that little USB. There's 2 USBs, an A and a C. It does look nice, and the screen itself is within easy reach. There's a little home button here. And it's just relatively quick and snappy and easy to use. Now, in terms of the rest of the material, this is a really expensive hand-built supercar from Britain, and you can see the door panel has this beautiful leather material here covering the entire door panel. There's a standard Bowers & Wilkins stereo with metal speaker covers. You can see it's nice and padded over here. Your window controls are bespoke to McLaren, and they also feel really high quality. To open the door, you pull on this, and you can see, just push the door open. It has these little struts to kind of help the door push it up. You can see there's a little more storage over here. This is all covered in leather, which is absolutely fantastic. And these seats are also really comfortable and supportive, although surprisingly, they are not ventilated. I don't know if they are offered with ventilation. I actually don't even see any heated seat function. When I go over here, you can see the dashboard, let me first talk about that, is covered in this suede Alcantara material, which makes it look really nice. You have traditional air vents here, which I appreciate since they're not those motorized air vents like so many brands are doing. Going back to the driver's area over here, you can see these are to control your suspension adjustments. So this is where you can adjust the suspension between sport and track and comfort mode, which you individually adjusted here. And then this right here controls the powertrain. So it's in electric mode now. If I tap that, you can see it goes into comfort. That wakes the engine up. Tap that again, it goes into sport, and then it goes into track, which is the most aggressive setting. You can see it gives you a tachometer that's right there at the top of the digital display. And it really just reminds you this is, again, a supercar that you can easily take to the track. Your mirror controls are located right here. It's a nice little toggle, and then your headlight controls are over here. You also have a button here to raise and lower the front suspension, which is part of an option package, and this vehicle also has for $8,200 their driver assistance package. So I believe this car should have adaptive cruise control, which it does, and it also has active lane keep assist, which I personally would skip that feature. I don't know if I would spend $8,200 on a supercar because I wouldn't really drive this thing on a long trip and need the adaptive cruise, although you technically could because McLaren touts this as an everyday sports car. Now, looking over here in the center stack, you can see this is your controller to control the 8-speed dual clutch transmission. Your start-stop button is located right here, which the car has been on the whole time, but it was in electric mode. I should be able to toggle it back into electric mode and the engine should shut off, but it doesn't. Right now it just is telling me the engine's gonna stay on. Your transmission selector is here. The vehicle doesn't technically have a park function. A lot of McLarens do that. You put it in neutral and you activate the electronic parking brake here. That's how you essentially put it in park. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see it does bring up a backup camera, which surprisingly they put it here in the instrument panel, which you can see the camera gives you trajectory, it gives you distance markers and sensors, of course, and the camera quality and resolution is good, although I would have preferred to see like a full 360 camera, something to kind of keep me from scraping the nose of this vehicle. That would have been good to find, but again, really good quality resolution. Down here you can see you have one cup holder, you have a wireless phone charging pad right here, which does fit my iPhone 14 Pro Max nicely, although right now it's stored up in the center console. There's a little placard here, I guess to show you how this vehicle is built in England. It's hand assembled in England. You have a nice little leather covered center console area here, and if I open this up, like I mentioned earlier, you have a decent center console storage area with 2 USB-C charging ports. These seats are also really comfortable and supportive. They're just a pain in the ass to get in and out of, but once you're in here, they hug you in place nicely. The suede Alcantara also keeps you from moving around. And then in terms of the headroom space, you can see it's obviously right now you have an infinite amount of headroom, but when the roof was up, it wasn't terribly horrible. You also have Alcantara material here on the headliner. Surprisingly, no mirror over here or over here. Instead, you just have an auto-dimming frameless rearview mirror here, along with some LED map lighting, along with some ambient lighting, but overall the interior, the build quality feels impeccable. The materials are really nice. The tech is also surprisingly good as well. So I'm just genuinely shocked. This vehicle is a really, easy car to live with when you're actually in the vehicle, but if you're looking for a glove box, as you can see, there is no glove box on this vehicle, which doesn't surprise me. A lot of supercars don't have one, although back here, you can see there is a little bit more additional storage, which Rob was pointing out to me since I can't see it from this seat. But if you're looking for a traditional glove box, as you can see, there's nothing over here. All right, come on, old man. Better. Get in this car so we can go for a drive.
Yes, let me park my wheelchair. Oh my God, seriously. Old and decrepit.
Yeah, so we actually lucked out because the sun is out and it's 66 degrees outside. It's been kind of crappy and rainy and kind of chilly all day, so we kind of saved the McLaren as the best for last. And
it's a good thing. We won't end up in a ditch.
Hopefully not. We are driving a rear-wheel drive vehicle with a twin-turbo V6, and we're going to start out in electric-only mode.
It would be quiet if that damn semi-truck wasn't idling next to us.
I know. Yeah, that's kind of the thing is when you're filming, people kind of start to notice you, especially if you're driving around in something like this. But we have about only probably 25% of the battery charge remaining, so it's only showing like 4 miles of electric-only range. I wish I could test out the actual range, electric-only range, but I'll have to see if we can get one back home to test for a full week. But
what is the quoted range?
11 miles is what the EPA says, although McLaren keeps saying that you could probably end up doing closer to 20 miles, but I'm skeptical of it doing 20 miles.
Yeah, if it was full, I don't know, maybe. You sure you don't want to go that way where there's straight roads?
I think we can find a straight road over there.
Okay.
Remember? Yeah, I think that's what we found.
Yeah,
over
we
there.
did the normal stuff. That's fine.
But oh, this is kind of interesting. Like,
yeah, full electric.
This is the first time that I've ever driven the Artura or a McLaren that has electric-only propulsion, and with only 94 horsepower in EV-only mode, it's definitely not very fast in EV-only mode. But this is great for around town driving if you're stuck in traffic. Which is kind of why McLaren says this is like an everyday supercar. Like, oh, thanks.
Thank you. Oh, a nice CRV driver.
But you do have 166 pound-feet of torque, so it actually does feel pretty quick when you put your foot down. It just doesn't have much horsepower. Let's go ahead and wake up that gas engine because
you can charge up the engine or the battery.
You can.
too,
So if you
right?
put this vehicle into its track mode setting, it does kind of quickly charge up the battery pack. I wouldn't say instantaneously. It's still a 7 kilowatt hour battery pack, so it's not, going to quickly charge like a Corvette E-Ray, but it's certainly going to help a little bit. Now, I'm not going to 0 to 60 test it. I just want to try just stepping on it shortly.
Signs right there.
I know, I just want to try stepping on it shortly here.
Wow. It doesn't give you all of the power off the line, though. That's weird. It's almost like a throttled EV.
Yeah, so I'm suspecting that's because you need to launch it to get full power off the line. McLaren tends to kind of limit the vehicles a little bit.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. God, this thing pulls.
That definitely gives you the kind of tunnel vision. And listen to the sound of that engine. This has the optional sport exhaust system. I forgot how much it costs, but it almost reminds me of the sound of the Alfa Romeo Giulia, the Quadrifoglio like vehicles. Those to me sound pretty much like this. Let's put the suspension into its track setting here. Now, I guess to engage the launch control, you actually have to turn off the stability control system.
Does it give you a launch enabled or anything like that?
I don't know, actually. McLarens typically don't let you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. My Model 3 is supposed to be just as fast, but it does not feel or sound anything like that. Wow. I missed a visceral experience.
See, aren't you glad you came with me, Rob? He was so afraid he was going to get seasick out here, or car sick out here.
Yes.
Seasick.
No, I get car sick easily, but that's more than back and forth, not forward and back.
Right. Well, it kind of helps that we have the top down because you kind of get
Oh,
that.
yeah, it's beautiful. This is perfect. This really is. You've always liked convertibles, and I don't blame you because this is a little more powerful than your old Miata, which apparently was a sports car, according to you. But this is a sports car. This is a supercar.
Yes. So, you also have these paddles where you can take control of the of the 8-speed dual clutch transmission, which, by the way, this transmission is surprisingly smooth. We're also very, very low,
yeah,
so
we are very low.
we're going to go really slow here. I'm hoping I can try to do an acceleration run on our way back, but for a dual clutch, it's surprisingly good at just not being the jerkiest transmission, although the entire experience of this car...
Everything else is so visceral with it, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the suspension may be rough, but everything else is so sharp. It kind of all blends together to be one experience.
Right, so I had the suspension in track mode there, which is the most aggressive setting, but you can put it into comfort, and I love how you can kind of control the suspension individually compared to the actual powertrain. So I'm going to see if we can...
this is your best bet for a 0 to 60.
Let's see if we can try to get a 0 to 60 run in this vehicle.
30% battery.
So brake torque it. Now that's with the wheels stepping out a little bit. I could feel it, but we got 3.22 seconds there.
3.22. It honestly felt like it was about to lift off the road. Like with all the aero in the front, I mean, we weren't going nearly fast enough for the aero to be that effective, but it felt like it was about to take off.
It did, and that's kind of the thing that I've noticed every time I do drive a McLaren is these things just feel even faster than the numbers would suggest, and the car sits so darn low to the ground that you literally just feel like you're on the ground when you're driving this thing. It's absolutely insane. The steering is also incredibly quick and sharp and responsive, as you expect. The suspension stays nice and flat. I also love just these paddles as well. They just respond so quick. Whoa, this engine revs to 8,500 RPM. So even though it's a V6, it's an exotic sounding experience. So don't even start complaining that the V8 is not here, because I actually appreciate the fact that this does have kind of like a bespoke engine to it. It just kind of creates a unique experience that I haven't felt in any other McLaren model.
God, with the top down, it sounds so good. Until you mentioned the word V8, I had completely forgotten the fact that it wasn't there.
I mean, a V6 I think can sound really good. It just depends. Like, obviously when you have something like this that, that sounds super exotic, revs so quickly and freely. God.
Do you know if the battery was full, would it be providing more power, do you know, or is it not?
You know, it should have enough juice in the battery to at least give you enough power to give you the full 690 horsepower. That's kind of what McLaren's going to most likely tune it to be. But left to its own devices, this automatic just shifts surprisingly well. And I love the fact that you can put it to manual mode. It's you know, in comfort here, it just kind of just cruises along, and it rides really nicely. It's comfortable. It's a really impressive package, which it better be considering the $350,000 price tag of this car.
Yeah, that's good.
Do you want to drive it all? I'll let you drive.
It's fine. I'm so over today at this point. I'm just
no. You need to go.
Grumpy.
You need to go drive. That will make you feel better.
$350,000 car. Yeah, but everything's 25 miles an hour around here. I don't get a ticket.
Here, well. So I must admit, in my line of work, I get to drive some pretty incredible vehicles, but there is something extra special about driving a McLaren. This brand, this car company, is always going to appeal to any driving enthusiast. Obviously, it's going to appeal to somebody who has deeper pockets, but after spending the day driving the new Artura, it's pretty clear that McLaren essentially wanted to bring a lot of their electrified technology down from the P1 over into a more entry-level model. And I say entry-level in quotations because this is definitely still an expensive proposition. As you guys saw during the driving scene, this car has no trouble putting a huge smile on my face. With nearly 700 horsepower from that twin-turbo V6 hybrid powertrain, this thing should be able to deliver 0 to 60 performance in around 3 seconds, although I've seen other outlets do it as quick as 2.6. I'm hoping at some point McLaren will send me one for a full week where we can put it through our actual battery of tests in 0 to 60 time in our usual home turf area. As you guys also saw, if you plan to use this as a daily driver, it certainly is possible. The ride quality is livable, the seats are comfortable, the interior has enough space for somebody of my height, and the trunk also offers a decent amount of storage capacity for 2 carry-on roller bags. The technology also is good, although I kind of wish McLaren would have given this thing wireless Apple CarPlay. I don't know why you have to plug in your phone via wired connection. But really, the only big question you have when you want something like this is how much money are you going to have to save up to actually put one of these in your driveway? Because the Artura obviously has gotten more expensive. In fact, McLaren has increased the price of this model for 2025 by about 15 grand compared to the 2024 model. So if you guys want a base Artura, they start at around $250,000, add around 30 grand if you guys want the convertible. The convertible, that's right, is about $30,000 extra. Now, my particular test car here, with a base price of around 275 grand, has roughly $75,000 worth of options. Some of the most expensive you guys saw were the color and that transparent roof, but with all the options and the $5,000 destination charge, this model here comes into $344,718. That's right, nearly 350 grand for this vehicle is definitely a crap ton amount of money. And again, if you guys have that kind of money to spend, you do have several other options out there, because obviously you could also look at something like a Corvette E-Ray, which I actually really love that vehicle. You can easily get one for around $130,000. There's also the the Porsche 911 GTS Hybrid, which just came out. I haven't had a chance to drive that yet. That vehicle starts at around $190,000. So clearly, if you guys have, well over $300,000 to spend, there's plenty of options out there, but there's really nothing that's quite like a McLaren that's quite as special as this vehicle. So if you have that kind of money to spend on a new plug-in hybrid everyday supercar, you should definitely put these at the very top of your list. Well, with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 McLaren Artura Spider. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.